AB, thank you for being our first person in the room, and thank you for being a participant for the last couple months. Go ahead and knock out this disclaimer while we wait for everyone else to get here. I am not a medical professional. Nothing I say is intended as health advice. Any major changes you make to your diet or any other aspect of your lifestyle is something you check with a doctor with before enacting your own life. I'm also not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is a recommendation for an investment. And I'm a law-abiding citizen. Nothing I say is an admission for guilt. Or of guilt. Nothing I say is an admission of guilt. All that being said, I am coming to you live at this moment from the great state of Oregon in the United States. And it's a little bit of an overcast day. We are, kind of tucked in today, doing some editing work and whatnot, but I figured it would be advantageous to check with my YouTube community and see what's going on, but it does seem like we're getting a slow start today, so hopefully this will pick up and we get a little streamer thingy going. Could be that Sundays are not the day, but I did give some warning ahead of time, so we'll see if what happens. What's up, JB? You're the only one here, man. Let's talk about it. Oh, there we go. Now we're getting some people. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. If anyone has any questions regarding where we might go with this conversation, the chat is open. As far as the whole Into the Wild thing that I put on there, that's just basically where my mind's been at lately. I shot a bow the other day, and kind of starting to wrap my head around the idea of doing seeing how long I can survive in the great outdoors. You know, I feel that more and more as time goes by, I started, starting to feel that I'm approaching a crossroad where one path leads back to where this all started, which is, rooted in society, and that path I go back and try to right my wrongs at the source, basically fight fire with fire, nullify the venom with the antivenom, basically. Or the other path I see is to continue on the road that I am now and just go deeper and deeper into nature. See, what that brings out, because I do feel that the one common denominator with my spiritual progress has really been that almost all of my major experiences happened either in nature or with some type of influence from nature. So that's kind of an interesting thing. But looks like we got our first question. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and read this out. Raphael says, hypothetical scenario. If there were definitive proof that nothing divine exists and that we're just products of evolution on a rock in space, would you lead your life differently? That is a great question. It's a very hypothetical question because I can't imagine a possibility where that could ever take place. Even within the spiritual realm, of knowing more than the average bear, right? The thing is that each level of knowing brings you into a deeper understanding of how much that you don't know. And it sounds, ironic and paradoxical, but literally the closer you get to the divine, the less you will actually be confident with that, I guess. I don't know. That was badly stated, but if there was somehow some magical definitive proof, which I really honestly can't even imagine, even a totally fictional, very, I just can't even really imagine what proof of that sort could even look like. Like, who do you believe? What you're gonna, some guy in a lab coat comes out and says, I'm the smartest man in the world. I've used all this advanced technology that you don't have access to, and I have definitively proven, this metaphorical scenario. It's like, how would you even, you're still just placing your faith in man at that point. Because you don't have all the super high-tech stuff and, devices to prove, whatever. And you don't have the, background or the credentials needed for anyone to hold your, opinion in esteem or whatever, right? So it makes it like a really, kind of unrealistic scenario that anything could even be proven like that to begin with, because that's what we're already doing. It's like most people are either, on the side of the divine, they're trusting their preacher or their, whatever other holy figure that tells them something, and they believe them. It's belief, right? It doesn't really come from any place of knowing. And then on the other side of it, you have the more atheist type people who, are super, they believe in science. Most of them have never done a scientific experiment of any type, or don't really have any education in science or beyond whatever that they read on Google, that they just blindly trust because they've never recreated any of the experiments or done anything to do it. And even if they spent their whole life recreating experiments, all they would do is just barely scratch the little surface of everything that has been said. But nobody really knows, right? Everybody's just choosing who they believe. Do I believe this guy in the lab coat that supposedly went to this school and that I know this about, or do I believe this guy over here in this, in his preacher outfit, whatever? Do I believe the guy with the unibrow and the dreadlocks on Instagram or YouTube? You know what I'm saying? Like, who do you believe? It all just really comes down to that. And so that's why, for me, I'm always telling everyone, forget religion, forget spiritual teachings and this, that, and the other. Just remove everything from yourself. Remove everything from yourself till you find the part of you that is God. And once you find that part, then you will know. But you'll know because you have a direct experience and understanding of the thing that you're trying to know about. Now, to answer your question, since you did state a hypothetical question, which I've now gone into all the reasons why I don't see that being any kind of a possibility at any point in time ever for all of eternity. But let's just say that hypothetically something did happen of that nature. Would I live my life differently? Yeah. I would probably impregnate as many women as possible. That's how I would live my life differently. I would probably just I would go straight back right back where I came from. I'd go right back into the industry. I'd make a new rule, no pulling out. And I'd probably start a website that's like bebrucesbabymama.com. And I would just start banging out, legions of little Bruces, like any, moral compassless creature that's on the planet. Like, I would just get my rodent on, you know what I'm saying? And just, be prolific. That's how I would live my life differently. So, but that being said, I don't really think that that's a realistic scenario. And so I'm pretty happy, continuing with the way that I'm living now. But I do think that the more applicable part of that whole rant is that you never really know, you can't know anything other than what you personally experience yourself, right? So whether you believe the preacher or the monk or the scientist or the president or the politician or the lawyer, whatever person that you choose to believe, you just choose to believe them. You know what I'm saying? But what you should be doing, and of course, maybe some people are doing this, so don't take it wrong if you're already on this path, but is that you should be seeking your own experiences and trusting in your own senses and experiences, and back to the end of the wild thing, for me, the place where that becomes most inherently obvious is in nature, for example, like, here's just a little something. It's really nothing. It's a sand dollar. Look at this. But there's these little patterns if you look really close. It's got a barnacle on there. Like, it's kind of interesting. And I forgot the name of these patterns. Maybe somebody can prompt me. But, you see this all over in nature. You see it in lightning. You see it in plants. You see it in animals and shells. You see it in like our own nervous system and our own vascular system. It's called, I forgot the name of it, but it's some type of pattern that creates, it's created by electricity. The Fibonacci sequence. You know what I'm saying? Well, I think the Fibonacci is the spiral, right? Like, but there's something else that's like the branching pattern, you know what I'm saying, that you see all over the place. And if you can't see that and realize that there's God in everything, then you're not looking hard enough. You gotta look harder. And I'm going to go back to the chat. But I mean, you see that all over nature. You can see it in every leaf. You can see it in, every seashell, the Fibonacci, you know what I'm saying? The spiral, there's reoccurring things. And you can also just come up with the fact that for you to be conscious of something existing means that which is more conscious, the consciousness that gave birth to your own perception, is also aware of that and has already done the footwork to see what would happen in any different scenario. So, and in some way that's kind of like your experiment of, if there was definitive proof that there was nothing divine, right? That's almost basically what this world is. You're literally living that experiment, you know. But the thing is that it's a false, it's a hypothetical experiment, exactly as you put it. There is divine, there is a creator, there is God in everything. But in wanting to know the same answer that you just asked, we've all been created. Not only have we been created, but we've been created and partitioned from the source from which we came. So we have no memory of it until the day that we do, of course. But, that's really what spiritual work is. There's nothing to learn. There's nothing to really accomplish other than to remember who you are and what you are, right? And that's like the whole name of the game for your higher self, is to connect with you and to be able to do it. But in the meantime, nature has designed your experiment in total practicality, in the sense that you don't remember all these little details. You don't really know all these little details until you have the experience to truly within yourself know. And even then, you can run to the top of the hill. You can make a YouTube channel. You can talk to everywhere. And you know what? You'll be lucky if you got 12 people that want to hear you. Oh, lost one. Make it 11. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, that the reality is that your experiment is happening times over all across the planet right now. And only, a handful of people are not subject to that, and most everybody is just going off of the belief of something that they read or something that somebody told them. You know what I'm saying? And when in reality, like, the depth of the divine and everything that goes into this is so deep that literally the closer you get, eventually when you get close enough to the divine, you will realize that it is a complete waste of a tremendous amount of energy to try and commit what is reality to even to the spoken word or written word or any type of mundane communication. You know what I'm saying? This is why when the divine speaks to you, you don't hear words so much as you have experiences. You get to embody that for just a moment. You know what I'm saying? And in a few minutes or hours of wiping away everything that you've created within yourself, everything that is your ego, because that's what your perception, that's what all your beliefs and everything are. It's all ego. Because that which is the greatest, the ultimate creator and divine, is beyond words. And to even think that you have even a name for that or anything, like we can say God or whatever we want for simplicity's sake, because we are earthbound creatures using earthbound words. But the reality is that to understand the divine, even within yourself, you have to kill your ego. You have to at least put your ego in timeout long enough that it will shut the fuck up and let free-flowing thought happen without words. See, your ego is the part of your brain that can't shut the fuck up. Your ego is the part of your brain that forms words. Your ego is the part of your brain that creates the sentences that you then, as yourself, filter before they come out of your mouth. Some people filter, some people don't, right? But that being said, everything that happens in words is inadequate. It doesn't, the words are not good enough to contain the divine, right? And so that's why we meditate. That's why we immerse ourselves. That's why we do tantra and so on and so forth, to distract ourselves from the voice in our head You know what I'm saying? We overload different parts of our brain. We let the different parts of our brain that are segmented out for different reasons to operate differently. So there's not so much cross chatter between all the partitions in our brain, and then allows us to experience actual pure thought, actual free-flowing thought, which is super consciousness, which is the consciousness of the divine. And if you can experience that for even a couple of moments, then you get to understand something, then you get to know something. But it will, again, not be something that you can share with other people because it will not go into words. Do you know what I'm saying? And so that's basically the underlying fundamental cornerstone of all spirituality, of every religion, of everything, is that, you know, spirituality is the absence of the big mistake, whereas religion is an example of the big mistake. The big mistake being to use words, to try to put things that are divine into words, when words are not the divine thing. Words are a earth-based, mundane thing. Words are something that we have developed in place of what we used to have, which was direct thought and telepathy between each other, which we will have again in the next dimension. And who knows, maybe we can create a world where we uncover that situation again. But in the meantime, we're using words for everything, and we're trying to plagiarize what is natural using the internet and whatnot. And so, but religion is, you know, a great example of how even the best thing, the purest teachings, the best intentions go wrong over time. You know, the path to hell is paved in good intentions. And that is absolutely true, because we can see that in other religions. Like, you know, when people are killing each other over religion, going to war over religion, over things that were said about loving your enemy, about loving your neighbor, about, you know what I'm saying, doing about love. And people have now you know, here, fast forward 1,000, 2,000 years, and people have weaponized that. And it's been the basis of multiple countless wars and endless killing and so on and so forth. Even though the words said were the purest form, they were invoked by the divine. They were literally, you know what I'm saying, came from enlightened people. And so you got to ask yourself, how does that go wrong? Well, it always goes wrong when you try to put something into words, because eventually they take those words out of context. Eventually they hide part of the words. Eventually they change some of the words. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can be sitting here speaking to you right now, and if I ever was to get a huge following beyond the 7 to 12 people that are in this room or something, trust and believe that sometime in the future, they're going to go and take all this shit, put it into a fucking AI and change what I said. You know what I'm saying? And nobody will be all the wiser. They'll be like, oh, remember this guy back 500 years ago that was saying all this stuff? You know what I'm saying? Oh, his teaching lives on. But it's not going to be his teaching. It's going to be the teaching of whoever has taken that over, whoever has infiltrated that. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's not that religion or the intention or any of the teachings are bad. They were all good. Like, you can't have a bad intention once you're enlightened. It's just not a thing. Like, you will have pure intentions, but you can still have shortcomings. You know what I'm saying? And one of those shortcomings has obviously been the inability to foresee what would happen over the course of time, meaning long term, thousands of years, hundreds of years, whatever, and things go wrong. And the reason is because people are operating on belief from things that were said with words, instead of having their own relationship with God, their own relationship with the Creator, their own relationship with themselves. And that only happens when you remove everything from yourself, when you forget everything that you know. Anything that you think you know, that you're operating on something that someone else said, is standing between you and God. Even if it's every scripture that's ever been said, every holy word, every good thing, and you believe it 100%, you have absolute total faith. Faith is good, but the belief is bad. And that every one of those words that you have memorized and put in yourself, that has strengthened your ego. That is all ammo for your ego. Your ego remembers every one of those words. You yourself do not give a fuck. You yourself at the core are one with God. But everything that has ever been said in your entire life by anyone, everything you've ever learned or read or whatever, everything that you believe is inherently false, because it falls short, because it's rooted in words, in language, and language is inadequate. It's weak. It's not pure. So everything that you believe in life, everything you've ever learned in life, no matter how good it is a wall between you and your creator, between you and God. And if you want to know, really truly know the truth, you break that fucking wall down. You beat that wall into dust. And that is what is meant by the ego death. Destroy your language. It's inadequate. It cannot describe the divine. I'm sorry. And that applies to every person that's ever existed in all of history. No man has and ever will command the truth with language. It will never happen, not with any language that has ever existed, and any language that will ever come. Nobody will command the actual truth with language. And if you want to defeat the ego, you call it the ego death, or you just gain control over it, because let me tell you, you can't really kill the ego. You just have to put it in its place and use it for what it's good for, instead of using it for everything, instead of letting it be your mind. Don't let your mind be the ego. That's your reptilian brain talking. You got to silence that and let the adults run things in your head. That's what's up. But the thing is that you don't need a big brain, Zane. And I'm going to read the whole chat. I'm not skipping anything. Don't worry, you guys. But Zane, I'm skipping to your comment. Zane says, I wish my brain was big enough to fully understand, man. But the thing is that you don't need a big brain. You know, even a congenital idiot can attain enlightenment. Not saying that's you, but I'm just saying a total idiot can attain enlightenment. And guess what? That idiot with low IQ will be more effective at basically anything that they actually want to do in life, which may not be much, but anything that they want to do in life, they will be more effective than the person with 190 IQ who's not enlightened. That person with 190 IQ is going to build just a thicker wall between them and the divine. They're going to learn more shit. They're going to put more words in their head. They're going to have a stronger ego. It's going to be harder for them to truly attain oneness with their creator. It's going to be hard because they have too much shit going on in their head. They have to let all that go. They have to relearn to release their greatest strength. That's hard. To release your greatest strength is the hardest thing you can do. Like for me, that was sex. Like I had to release sex from my life, and I'm literally, you know what I'm saying? Probably like, you know, maybe possibly the premier fucker in the world. I had to let that go. You know what I'm saying? But that's the same thing that the genius has to do. They have to let go of their superiority complex of thinking that they're smarter than everyone else. Maybe they are logically smarter than everyone else, but guess what? They're lacking somewhere else. There's always a trade-off until you achieve enlightenment, which actually gets your whole brain to start working as a more, a more solid unit, instead of just letting your ego, your brain stem, your reptilian brain dominate everything that's going on inside your body. And so that is possibly my whole stream today. Let's see. I'm gonna go back to the chat. Let's go. We did 30 minutes. Good rant. All right. I'm going all the way to the top. We're gonna do chat stuff right now. All right. So there's the question that we did. Good afternoon, Bryant. Ross Live. I weigh. I don't really know how many kilograms I weigh. I'm about 180 pounds. I don't really know what in kilo. I'm not sure kilograms on that. Maya, good to see you. I am alive. I've relocated in Oregon. Maybe a little bit too soon. The weather's not perfect yet, but there's been some excellent days, so we're doing stuff. Zia Lahak says, please inform us about NFT as it becomes the most popular in many countries. Please inform of its working and purpose. Well, I'm not really super knowledgeable about the whole crypto thing. I mean, it's something that I know a little bit about. As far as like uses, like my case use is that I do think that fiat currency is bullshit. And it's hard to, do anything in a system that operates on income tax. But given that you're in a country or a place where you're not getting taxed on crypto, then the interesting thing about NFT or crypto in general is the ability of a citizen to issue it, and all people should have their own currency. Currency should not be, especially in fiat currency. I mean, unless the currency is going to be backed, there should not be any kind of centralized control over our currency. Like, we should each be issuing our own currency, and there should just be a credit system, that governs, not necessarily the value, but the, like the review system on each given person's currency. You know what I'm saying? Or should I say more like a Web3 approach, where it's just like everything is kind of encrypted and jotted into stone, And in that case, NFT could be pretty interesting, but the governments are definitely not going to try to allow that to happen. And when I say the governments, I really mean the central banks, since those are the real government. Because let's just face it, without endless fiat currency and income tax and all that, you can't really have endless war, can you? You can't have endless death and destruction. So, the people who are enslaving the world really do kind of need to stop that disruptive technology from getting too much of a foothold, which I have pretty high level of confidence that they will succeed, even using the dirtiest possible tricks, and possibly even ending civilization before allowing us to take control of our own wealth. Raphael, yeah, just a funny thought. Yeah, it was a good one. Honestly, you sparked a lot of a good rant there, Raphael, and I actually really appreciate that. I think it was a great question. Zia Halak says, please only listen, not discussion. Nonsense comments. Yeah, we got kind of our thing. Zia, we're happy to have you here. I'm sure you'll get into the, the flow of the thing, but usually I just kind of rant. I go back, I read the questions, I do some chat stuff, and then if something else inspires another rant, I'll rant for a while, so on and so forth. But that was actually a pretty solid stream already, so we might not go that long today. I kind of like to keep them a little bit more compact. It makes it easier to process afterwards. But yes, and I do, fractals is a good way to look at it, but I wouldn't say, there's a word for the electricity thing, like it's called, forgot the name, it's like a specific thing, but it's, Zia says, sir, I'm Muslim. According to our Holy Quran, all living things came into existence with water, air, and soil. Well, to each their own. I do, I respect everybody's beliefs and everybody's religions, but I just personally, as aforementioned, think that the problem is that most people try to use language as their way of absorbing those teachings, whereas in my own belief and experience, that the ascended masters, meaning the enlightened ones who have, transcended their physical bodies, but yet did attain immortality with their creator, that those consciousnesses never leave. They come to earth to build, and when the ascended master goes back, or even sometimes before they go back, but once they're saved, that consciousness is there. And to read what other people have written about that or whatever is always going to fall short from actually connecting with that ascended master's consciousness, because what you can do through meditation and love is that you can, for a moment, bring those ascended masters' consciousness into yourself. You can, if you can empty that little slot where your ego goes, you can plug something else into it for a little while, like past holy figures and, prophets and things like that. You can literally connect with them directly and feel inside yourself what it was like to be that person, what it was like to have that person's connection with the divine. And in having that experience, even for a moment, to know what it was like to be that person, to have access to that person's memories, to have access to that person's experiences, no matter how long ago they passed or they left this earth, you can know what it was like to be them for a moment. And that is how you learn their teachings. That is how you learn what they truly wanted to share with the world. That's how you learn what their intentions were when they said the things that they would said. But the thing is that language is just, and it's not the problem. The problem is not with any of these people. They all are, I'm saying, once someone achieves oneness, they're, I'm saying, pretty much infallible, because they're drawing from super consciousness, right? But the thing is that language falls short. There doesn't exist immediate. As soon as we lost the ability to use telepathy, we lost the ability to properly communicate about the divine. And so the better way, in my opinion, of learning what any ascended master ever had to teach is to meditate on that person until, perhaps, if you're in alignment with them enough, that they bless you with access to their consciousness. And if you become blessed with access to their consciousness, you can, for whatever period of time, experience what it was like to be them, or what it is like to be them. And that's how you learn. That's how you know. And nobody can take that from you. You have that experience, and the whole world can tell you you're wrong, and you will not care, because you will know. And you will see that the things talking against you are beliefs. It's not knowledge. And so it's very important when dealing with other people to understand the limitations of belief. And if you want to, if you're going to understand the limitations of belief, then you should also understand the depth of your own knowledge. So, that's my thing. Zane says, glad you're really enjoying life now. Glad you see you doing something you love. Thank you, Zane. I appreciate you. Anna says, is a sand dollar a sea urchin skeleton or just some shell? It's it's a shell. It's like the exoskeleton. It is a skeleton, but not from a sea urchin. It's like when you find a live one, they have like a bunch of little legs on the bottom. They're kind of like, almost like, they almost seem like they would be like related to like the centipede, like a wide, flat centipede, because they have like thousands of legs on the bottom that they kind of crawl around, and that little hole is the mouth, and they kind of like sweep everything into their little mouth. They're kind of like, almost kind of like, they're similar to like starfish, I think. I don't know, but yeah, you can find them alive sometimes. They're pretty cool. Let's see. Zane says, don't want to get personal, but do you regret your past work, or have you gladly gotten to experience and build yourself up to now? I have no regrets for anything in my life. Even being in prison and stuff, I don't really regret it, because the reality is that one of the things that brings us closest to the divine is suffering. And the other is bliss. You know what I'm saying? And I got to experience both those in the industry. I got to experience both those things in all areas of my life. And ultimately, you know, it's like I've had at least like 7 huge experiences, a lot of other good meditations as well. And I would not trade even one of them to undo all the suffering I ever had in my whole life. It was worth it. There's nothing that I can think of that's not really worth knowing your creator. And for that reason, I have no regrets about anything. Now, if you want to go into like a more broad focus of the work, I mean, I do see the negatives in the industry, but I'm fairly, you know, I'm confident that my portion of like the part that I took in the industry made it less bad overall. You know what I mean? Like I did my best to be a good person. I did my best to be a good experience for the people that I worked with. I did the best, you know, to uphold my, you know, whatever was my code of ethics at the time. Which my code of ethics and values and stuff may have changed, and the things that I would do today are definitely different than the things I was willing to do 8 to 10 years ago. But it's always important to just stay in the moment. You know, anytime you step out of the moment, you step into a negative vibration. You know, the past is always about regret. The past is always about what we could have done differently. Even if things that went according to plan, everything, like even things that exceeded your expectations, you always think back and go, it could have been even better. You know, or I could have easily, you know, navigate around that. But the reality is at that moment you were doing what you thought. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just silly to be in the past, because the reality is that we're just harping on the little moments that we remember. But if you go and meet up with any old friends and reminisce about old times, what you'll realize is that everything is completely different to every person. Every different perception is completely different. And that you probably will remember like 1% of your life. You know, you just remember these little core memories. And they don't, you know, they don't add up to the truth. Because there was a lot more going on than what you remember. You know what I'm saying? Now, do you forget your lessons that you learned? No. Make that part of yourself. Make that part of yourself that operates in the now, right now. Right? But don't worry about whatever happened in the past. And definitely don't worry about the future. It's not going to go like you planned. You know? And if it does go like you plan, you'll immediately convince yourself that you could have done even better. And then regret creeps back in. So you're just dealing with regret or fear, you know, with shame or desire, you know, but freedom comes from lack of desire. When you don't want anything, then you will be thankful for everything that you do have. And that's freedom. You know, like if your health ever fails you, trust me, you won't care about money. You'll only care about health. You know, like there's a million different instances like that, but that's probably the most true and the most severe one. So it's you know, like, am I morally challenged? No. I'm even, honestly, like, sometimes I consider going back and doing it again. Like, I am a master of my trade, but the thing is that right now, like, I'm more focused on liberation. The more that I become free and the less that I am bound by desire, the more tempting that it becomes to do things that used to have a big major hold on me. Like, when I used to be in the industry, I used to never take a day off because I never wanted to miss out on work. I was going to have a great time at work and I was going to make good money at the time. So why would I want to miss that out? But now, you know, today I realize the value of my own secretions. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to just go frivolously, like, losing my life essence for fake fiat currency that may or may not have any value in the future. But my longevity and my vitality are definitely always going to have value to me. That will never stop being valuable. So, you know, it's all just a balance, you know. But it's not really like a moral thing. Most people kind of put that into consideration. Oh, like, it must be like this. Oh, he became spiritual. He doesn't want to do, and the industry's bad. And yeah, there's a lot of bad things about the industry. But the thing is that, you know, it's all about intention. And one of the things I learned, like, a lot of people disagree with this, but karma to me is not about intention. You know what I'm saying? It's about the actual result, you know? And so, you know, it's all just really comes down to knowing yourself, knowing how different things affect you. And the reality is also too, like, you know, most religion will tell you, oh, you do this and you go to heaven, you do this, you go to hell, or oh, you do this and you'll be closer to enlightenment, or you'll do this and you'll be deeper into suffering, and blah, 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 blah. Well, the reality is that, like, it all happened for me while I was actively, like, I had just went back into the business after 3 years without. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just was doing all the things. That's when it happened to me. You know what I'm saying? My biggest, when I experienced universal love, when I got to look through every person's eyes simultaneously, like, I did a scene earlier that day. You know what I mean? So I don't have a negative correlation between the industry and spirituality. There's nothing there. It's, you know, it's just that it's unrelated to me. One does not affect the other. It's all about my state of being. It's all about my mind. It's all about my, you know, virtues. It's all about my morals. It's all about my values. It's really how I feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would never do anything, you know, malevolent, no matter what I'm doing. It doesn't matter if I'm in the industry or if I'm walking down the street or, you know, hanging out at the beach. It is not part of my persona. So I just don't have really regrets, I guess, in life. Zia Hulak says, what country do you all belong? There's people from all over the place here. I'm from the States. Genetically from Europe. Anna's from Germany, raised in Austria. What's up, Jennifer? Good to see you. Good to see you. Zia's from Pakistan. I don't have a religion. Zia, I'm just, As I mentioned before, I believe religion stands between a person and God. I don't think that it brings a person closer to God. I think that the closest relationship, the purest relationship you can have with God is to have a direct relationship with God and to realize that no other man, living or dead, has authority over your relationship with God. Period. Anna says, yeah, this is a beautiful community from people all over the world. Happy to have you here. Would love to visit Pakistan sometime. And it's Roman Catholic. All right, let's see. I'll let the chat do their own thing. Let's see. You were right. In this world, there are two types of humanity. One is good people, there's bad people. Well, that's somewhat true. But the truth is that without the bad people, there would be no good people. Good people exist because they oppose bad people. But if, you know what I'm saying, but, you know, at what point do good people become bad if there are no bad people? You know what I'm saying? At what point do good people become bad because they decided to remove good people? Or to retaliate against, or to remove bad people, or to retaliate against bad people? At what point do good people become bad? Where do you draw the line? You see, there is no good and bad. There's only balance. Do you know what I'm saying? And this is the entire reason why this specific world exists. It's to show how to create the divine. Well, the divine can't be created without bad. Otherwise, we would live in a perfect world. But what would we learn from that? What would we learn from a perfect world? Would we learn anything? Would we ever experience suffering? Would we be scared? You know what I'm saying? Would we have to transcend our fears? Would we value peace? Would we be thankful for life at all? Or would we feel like we were trapped in some type of prison? You know? Like, what would eternity be like for the unlimited? Would it be a good thing? Or would you just wish for a little bit of reprieve? For just a moment where you could forget it all, where you could forget eternity, where you could not worry about nothing. Maybe that would be the greatest escape that you could get from the unlimited, from the infinite. You know, and maybe that's exactly what this is. Billions of people who are all really one single entity, but have forgotten by design because they wanted to take a moment off of eternity and pretend for a moment that life was limited, that life was short, that life could be sweet or brutal, that life could be this and that there was good and that there was evil, and that maybe there was something to learn from that balance. Something to think about. Noi, good to see you. Anyways, you guys. Oh, there's so much chat still going on here. Let me see if there's any questions. So when I see people fade nonetheless. Nice to meet you. Please accept my friend. Alright. I'm glad you guys are all having a good conversation. I like it when the chat's doing like this. Yeah, language is compressed. It lacks information. Exactly. It's you know, there's not, you know, the difference between binary code and quantum computing is only a third interval, right? Only a third interval. And what does that third interval do? It creates unlimited, you know, it makes everything that ever could have happened happen at the same time. You know, we don't have that in language, but we have that in life, you know. And so life and existence, you know, even on a much lower level than the divine, which is the highest level of that, right, lacks information. Because here in 3D land, you know, we perceive the world like binary code, but what's really happening in the tier above is quantum. Everything's happening simultaneously. And so it really comes down to awareness of where can you place your awareness on that spectrum. If your awareness is focused on the good and the positive end of the spectrum, then that's what you're tuned into, and that's the experience that you're aware of. Doesn't mean that all other possible experiences aren't happening simultaneously side by side, and if you lower your frequency, then you might slip into one of these other timelines and start having a negative experience. That's how that works. Everything is happening. It's just, what are you aware of? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you die tomorrow, like, will you be aware of it? Or do you just switch to another existence where you didn't die? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, everything is happening like that. There's no escaping this world. Like, karma is absolute. You cannot escape it. So that's the thing. Let's see. Really soon to open mind. Lichtenberg, there it is. Thank you, Anna. Yes, it's the Lichtenberg figure. That's the branch-like forms created by electricity. You see that? You see Lichtenberg, you see Fibonacci, you see these things all over in nature. Not to mention, like, you can just pick an orange from a tree, and it's got like a nice outer peel, it's got your vitamins, it's got your sugar, you know, you peel it, it's protected, it comes out in little segments that fit perfectly in your mouth. Like, it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, sure, it's evolution. Come on, you guys. It's crazy talk. Everything's too perfect. Come on. Zana, good to see you. Nico, good to see you. Innocence, message retracted. I hope it was a good one. Raphael says, how much differently do you feel in your body because of retaining your bodily secretions? Is it night and day at this point? Yeah, it takes a while to realize. Like you gotta go, like, this thing about this is why most people aren't hip to the whole semen retention thing, because it takes like 3 months to really make the huge differences, but it gets really hard after only a few days. Like, after only a few days, you're like, oh, like, I gotta get this out, you know. But you got to get past that, and if you can get past that for, you know, a few months, then all of a sudden it's a night and day difference. Yeah, and you also start unlocking some things that you weren't, and not even to mention that, like, everything in that realm, like sexually, your hardware, should we say, it all works way better if you give it, you know, time to fully recuperate, take time off, whatever. And, you know, all that, if you don't use it, you lose it thing, that's all a lie, you know, because what you'll find is that the longer you go without doing that, the more morning wood that you'll have. And if you learn to use that as like a form of meditation, kind of going into like the Taoist perspective on things, you can really learn to feel an extension of vitality within yourself based upon working with that energy. So yeah, it's a big deal, but I wouldn't even say that it's like beginner level. Like, that's like, honestly, like, by the time you're able to like get there mentally, you were already doing some pretty serious spiritual work. Like, you're becoming a spiritual alchemist at that point, just simply by having the self-control to do that, to make that change. I mean, I'm not speaking for everybody. Some people, I guess, don't have much of a sex drive to begin with, and maybe, they'll uncover us something that they didn't know was there, and that would be interesting. But I don't know. I don't have that personal experience because I always had a high drive, so I can only speak from my own experiences. Zika says, "Hi Bruce, I request that you study Holy Quran for getting a great treasure of knowledge. What is your thoughts about Palestine issue? I need your guidance." I don't really know what the Palestine issue is that much, but as I just mentioned for like an hour, and not to say that the Quran's not interesting to me, I probably would read it one day. But the thing is that regarding all spiritual teachings and knowledge, I don't put anything in front of God. Like, my focus, my life is dedicated 100% to dissolving anything between me and God. And so whatever knowledge that can be put into words is not really that interesting to me, because the knowledge that I want can only happen through experience. Through the experience of dissolving everything that one could imagine that they know. But you can't know anything from somebody else's experience. You need to have the experience yourself. If you think that you already know because somebody else told you about something, you won't have the experience. Because you've already put faith in something else. You've already put something else above God. You've already put a man, the words of a man, above God at that point. And nothing should come between you and God. All things should be removed. If you can see it, remove it. That's just my personal opinion. Innocent says, "It takes getting everything you wanted, then losing it to know what true freedom is." Exactly. And that can be everything from money, that could be fame, that could be health, that could be reputation. You know what I'm saying? That could be the love of a woman or an animal, or I guess if you're a woman, a man, or if you're into other stuff, it could be, I guess it could be anybody from anybody for that matter. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, truly, there's power in loss. But the power in loss is not in losing. The power in loss is to realize that you didn't need it to begin with. That you can be whole by yourself with nothing else in this world. That just you, yourself, are enough for you. And that everything else is an illusion. Everything's an illusion. This whole world is an illusion. You know? Is it important? Yeah, it's important because this is where the bravest people come from. And it's not the bravest people come here. It's not that they come here because this is such a dangerous and scary place. That's not what makes them brave. You know what I'm saying? When they chose to come here, they knew that death wasn't real. So it didn't take any bravery to come and do this. It only seems scary from this side where you don't know. What makes it brave to come here is that you don't remember who you are. You don't remember why you came. And everybody that you will ever know for all of eternity, every one of your peers, all your family, all your friends, not just from this lifetime, but from 1,000 lifetimes. Your creator themselves, everybody that you will ever know is watching you right now. And you don't know that. You don't remember that. You're going through life in letting everybody watch every intimate detail, hear every thought that you ever had. Do you know how humble you have to be as a divine spirit to agree to something like that? To agree that you're going to have your mind, your memory completely wiped, and you're going to come down here into the most chaotic place imaginable and let everybody watch you and you don't know. And then when you pass from this and you go back, you get to go and own everything that you ever did here for 1,000 lifetimes. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And the fact that you subjected yourself to that you agreed to have your memory wiped, and you agreed to be watched and seen in a controlled experiment where you don't have influence of knowing what you're doing, that you get to be seen in your most rawest form by everyone that you'll ever know for all of eternity. That's what makes it the brave thing to do. That's what makes you have to have, the real guts. Because, come on, there's nothing bigger than, you want to talk about public shaming, you know what I'm saying? That's like the highest form, but it's for you to fucking know yourself, to know your soul, to know your heart, and to have confidence that even without the memory of everything that's ever happened in all of eternity, that you will still find your way back to the divine, and you still become a good person. You will still learn right from wrong, that you will still obtain virtue. And when you do that and you prove that, then you get to remember everything. Then you get to remember who you are. Then you get to remember where you came from. Then you get to know your creator. And then it gets fun. Then it gets way more fun. It's not scary anymore. And that's that whole thing. Anyways, you guys, it's been a little over an hour. It looks like we got so most of the chat. Jennifer says balance and self-love, not only universal love while continuing your spiritual progress. There's balance in everything. It's all about remembering who you are. And who you are is not this voice in your head. Who you are is not the things you own. Who you are is not your job. Who you are is not your family. Who you are is not your friends. Who you are is who you are to yourself. Who you are is how you feel about what I just said, about everybody that you will ever know for all of eternity, watching every move that you ever make, and in the end being proud of you for finding your way back without a single memory. That's what really matters. All right. I love you guys. I'm going to log off. Until next time. Sam.